Hey guys, today I have a question from my friend Anish, and I would love to do my best to answer this question for you guys. It is Matthew, could you shed some light on personal will and how it changes after kundalini release, how the heart takes over the mind? I feel like I can offer a lot on this subject. I'll share my direct experience with this. And of course, this is a process that is still unfolding within me, that is still ripening within me. So I'll share, where I've been with it, how I've come to where I'm at, and I'll share not only my story, but some practical things I feel like that help this process unfold. The part that I want to talk about first is it sounds kind of easy, right? Just surrender your personal will and then start living through your heart. It sounds like all you need to do is just go sit with your hands on your heart, close your eyes, and allow your heart to open, and then that'll just take you through life. And it is that easy in one sense. It is that easy, and that's the movement, that's the practice, that's the spiritual aspect of it, is sitting with your eyes closed, putting your hands on your heart, feeling into your heart center, and allowing it to start opening and opening. And when your heart opens, a newer energy comes into your being, and it guides you, it moves you. You are no longer the doer. Your personal ego, the mind, is no longer the doer. The heart-centered energy that radiates through you starts carrying you through your days, through your work, through your interactions, through life. And the mind can be used to plan, it can be you still have thought, you can still think, but even the flavor and the dimension of the thoughts change. And you feel more of a wholeness. You feel like you don't need anything to happen a certain way. You don't need any certain results. You're not attached to the successes and failures, because you truly see that you are not the doer anymore. That the field of awareness, that God, that the intelligence of life, the universe, whatever resonates with you, you see that force is now doing through you. And so all personal credit and all personal blame is let go of. Now, of course, this is something I go in and out of majorly. This is something that is not totally rooted in me yet, and this is a process. This is why I say it sounds easy, and it is simple, and it is easy in theory, but the practice of it is difficult, because when we start feeling into our heart, and this is why we go in and out of living through the heart and then back into the ego. It's because when we start feeling into our heart, we realize, wow, there's a lot there keeping it closed. There's a lot of feelings there keeping it closed. And some days, when I sit and feel into my heart, I'm able to really feel it opening. I'm really able to feel a different type of energy come into me, and I can just feel like how it's chemically different. It has this texture and this quality of healing, of love, of real expansion, and it can be a beautiful movement. But a lot of days, to be honest with you guys, like I always am, I'll sit there. Like this morning, I was sitting there, and nothing was opening, and it was all mind, and it was there was just so much blocking it, and there was so much, like I'll say, debris, unconsciousness. There was so much ego, that still had to be felt through, and that today I just couldn't get there, and of course we'll try again, and that's all we can do, is just to keep feeling into it. But so that's the movement. So for example, when I write now, I don't focus on how can I become a better writer through the mind, right? How can I use words better? How can I be more eloquent and all of this? I just think, how can I clear my container, my vessel more, so that the field can flow through with more clarity, with more depth, with more wisdom. It's less of me trying to become a better writer. When I shoot these videos, it's less about how can I don't think anymore, how can I sit down, and I don't plan these out, of course, I just feel into it, and I don't sit here and think, how can I say things better, and how can I relate no, I just think, how can I be more open for God, for the field, for the universe to flow through me, to flow through and to speak through me, as me. How can I allow my heart to be open to who is watching this? It is more of, life becomes more of less developing, I would say, skills, which are still important and there's still a place for this, but it becomes more about how can we be open to something greater than ourselves? How can we let something greater than ourselves live through us as us? No matter if you want to say the universe, the intelligence of life, God, the quantum field, it's whatever resonates with you. So I'm going to share some of my personal story with this process to kind of bring this full circle so you can see it more through a real life example. When I first started going through, I'm just going to talk about this. Before my Kundalini awakening, I always really wanted to be a writer. I loved reading. I had a huge passion for reading. I think from the ages of 20 through the ages of 23 and 28, 29, I read all the classics. I read just everything you could read that was considered good literature. I was always reading, and I had this passion to write. And one of my really good friends in Missoula, Montana, who is an artist, used to tell me that there's one good book in every reader. Everyone who's loves reading like I did, there's always a good book in them. And he was always really pushing me to be creative and to share my own voice. But every time I would sit down, I would just have this crazy writer's block, and I couldn't think of anything to share. And I didn't feel like I had a voice. And I was always trying to share from the mind, I was always trying to conjure something up from my thoughts, and it just never was anything that I liked. And I literally maybe wrote a few pages in between those years. And then the Kundalini awakening came into my life. It happened, and of course, if you've watched this channel, you know about all the upheaval that occurred. And for a while there, I couldn't read anymore. My intellect was turned off. I definitely couldn't write. Like, my brain just couldn't muster that at all. My brain was like literally burning away, burning up. I was going through that neurological destruction phase of a Kundalini awakening. So I just let it go. I let reading go. I let everything go. And I never actually thought that it would be something I could do again, because I didn't understand the process at the time. It felt so permanent. So then, as I started healing a little bit, as I started releasing a lot of the trauma and the stress and the fear in my being, as I started working through the darkness and bringing my inner state back into a balance, I came to this place where I wasn't really on the other side of healing, but I also was out of the crisis phase. I was also out of my healing crisis. And I was just kind of more in this, I knew I had the tools now to heal, and I kind of saw where my life was going in a sense, as far as my inner state. But my outer world I was totally amiss. I was totally lost, because I kept trying to go back to sales jobs and to play professional poker, which had always given me my source of income in my life prior to my awakening. And I would notice every time I would do that, I would feel such personal, like I would feel such energetic sickness. Like, literally I would get really, really ill, to the point where I couldn't go into these jobs anymore. Every time I would go in and play poker, even if I won a large sum of money and it felt great in the moment, driving home, and like that night, I wouldn't be able to sleep. The next day I would just feel totally off and like disgusted, and like, just a strong energetic dissonance, to where I had to let go of these things. So I had to let go of all these safety and comfort things that used to like bring me money, and like they were easy for me to make money at, but I for some reason, the energy would not let me continue on that path. So I was just sitting there, and I was like running out of money. I should make a video on that. How to go through your life savings while going through a spiritual awakening. So I'm just like literally running out of money, going broke, and I don't know what to do. I keep trying to go back to sales jobs, but every time, like it's becoming so obvious that that's just not going to happen for me. So, and poker is gone. I can't play that anymore, So I'm just sitting there every day wondering, like, what is the movement? How am I going to like literally provide for myself? And I had, at this point, I didn't have a strong connection with God yet. I had a strong connection with the kundalini, the energy that had awakened inside of me, but I hadn't connected that to something even greater. I hadn't connected that to source, to the intelligence of life yet. So I would sit down and write sometimes, but it wouldn't really flow. There was not this burning energy in me that just like wanted to express like there can be now. And so what I did is I went outside and into the forest park, and I believe I've shared this before, but I just prayed to these humongous, beautiful trees, and they were just so powerful. Like you would just look at them and you're like, oh my, their power and their wisdom was undeniable. And I just prayed to the trees and I said, God, flow through me, use me as a vessel to anchor your love and your peace and your joy and wisdom into this earth. Use me as a divine instrument to bring, your love into this world. And I surrender to you all my egoic desires, all of my egoic and personal will. I surrender it to you, and I just want to serve you, and I want to let go into your grace, and I want you to just flood me with your grace, and just speak through me, act through me. And this was a prayer that I've cultivated since then, and this is something I always go back to. This is the movement, and this is hard because the ego will oftentimes creep back in, even when we're saying these prayers, even when we go through a period of a few days of where we're just flowing and we can just feel the grace of God. We can just feel or you want to say that we can just feel the quantum field just flowing through us, and we're just there. We're just the vessel. We can be going through this, and then the ego will come back up and sabotage because there's still a part of it. And for me, there's still aspects of my ego that are alive that say, no, I want the credit. I want to be the great writer. I want to be the person on YouTube that gets the likes or, the nice comments. I don't want to surrender my need for glory. That's the ego. It has this need for personal glory. And so when that creeps back up, guess what? It churns off the flow of grace. It cuts off the flow of the quantum field. The intelligence of life can no longer flow through the vessel because the vessel has become all mucked up with egoic cravings and desires. And these egoic cravings and desires have a little payoff. And that's why they're still around. But the payoff that you get from, having that ego satisfaction, that's pleasure. The ego only gets satisfied from pleasure out there. Pleasure is always an external source, where joy emanates from within. And when we are able to surrender the egoic need for pleasure, the egoic need for deriving satisfaction from accomplishment and money, and a big one for me used to be women and just all of these things. When we can surrender that, then we create this space in our being for joy to start flowing through, for something beyond the personal will, for something greater than the personal will to start flowing through us, acting through us, and speaking through us. And so after I started cultivating that prayer, that's when a different energy, like a powerful energy, started coming through me. And, I created like 4 blog posts and a website in like 2 days. And I had no idea how to create a blog. I had tried to create a blog prior to my awakening like a dozen times, and like could never figure it out, never had the energy to follow through with it. Didn't like any of the writing. And even now, I don't really have an opinion on my writing. Because I look at my writing sometimes, I'm like, well, that's great, but I honestly detach from it being like mine, you know? Sometimes with my videos, I'll be really hard on myself. I'll be like, that video sucked. You can do way better than that. And that's that ego sabotage coming back and trying to take credit and blame for things. But in reality, when we surrender the personal will, when we're letting something greater flow through, there is no credit and there is no blame. So if something goes great, okay, it's nice to receive, but truthfully, like that's not even me. So you don't truly take anything to heart because it's like, no, that's the field, that's the quantum field, that's God, that's that's the intelligence of life, And if something goes bad, same thing. You don't take the blame to heart because it's like, well, that I am not the doer of my actions. And for me personally, I'm just be real. I don't know where I'm at. I'm sure there's still a lot of ego in what I do. There's still a lot of ego in these videos, and there's still a lot of ego in my writing, and there probably will be for a while because this is a long process. And you start realizing when you start making this intention and this conscious movement to live through the heart that it is more difficult than you really thought it was. And there is a lot of ego that comes up, and a lot like when we're reaching new levels of consciousness, the opposite, like here we're say we come into this new level of peace and love and joy. Well, there's the opposite that is still alive in you that is going to be really threatened by this, because when we come into a new level of consciousness, we must let go of the opposite conditioning, egoic impulses and drives that were holding us down to begin with. So, or like programming. So these things will flare up and really throw a tantrum right when we're about to elevate to a new place of consciousness. So that's why people will start having like all kinds of symptoms and sickness and illnesses and crazy thoughts, and a lot of darkness come up. It's because we're going into a new place of consciousness, a new level of consciousness that requires us to let go of all of these older aspects that have been running us and dominating us. But these older aspects don't want to go. They want to hang on and fight, and they're gonna fight, and they're gonna really throw their best punch at you. So it's important. I've been through this many times. Just going through it again yesterday, actually. And it's important just to watch this fight and to say it's okay to these aspects. If we can't hate them away. I've tried that. It doesn't work. We can't say just stop it, go away. I don't need you anymore. I'm going on. No, what we have to do is we have to feel them, open to them, embrace them, love them, accept them. It's not until we can love something that it no longer has something to teach us, and that it'll finally release and integrate back into where our new level of consciousness. So that's the part that makes it hard, is when we open our heart, and opening to something greater, we're really going to start raising our vibration quickly. And we're going to be taking this accelerated path to the ultimate, I'll say. And those things that want to hang on and stay in control are going to really flare up in an intense and overpowering way sometimes. And we have to know that's a good sign. So like really intense thought storms, good sign. Just watch them, don't get lost into them if you can help it. Intense energy moving through the body and in your chakra points, the chakra centers, that's a really good sign. That means energy is releasing at a very intense and fast rate, which means your vibration is higher and your body's becoming lighter. These are all very, very good signs on the path, but they can be disconcerting at times. So really, in conclusion, that's the work. The work of surrendering the personal will is really clearing your container through doing the inner work, which just means to feel the programs, the conditioning, the limited beliefs, the negativity that exists within you, to really allow yourself to feel that, to allow it to fully arise in your being, and to sit with it, and to sit with the thoughts it's going to bring up, because like I always say, the thoughts are going to be a very similar flavor to the feelings you're allowing to come up. So if you're allowing really a lot of darkness to come up, you're going to be having really dark thoughts. So the key in clearing your vessel, allowing it to become more clear, is to allow the darkness up without believing the thoughts. Because if you believe the thoughts, then you're just going to recycle that energy. But if you can allow the darkness to come up and you can just watch the thoughts and allow them to be, and you don't contract on them, you don't give your power of belief to them, you just relax your awareness, completely relax into it all and allow the thoughts to be there, then what will happen is that darker energy, that fear, that anxiety, that deep grief, that depression, that terror, what will happen is it will start to release from your being, and as it releases, your mind's momentum will also slow down. So your mind will become quieter. Because a lot of the times, the thoughts are a product of really heavy darkness in the body, and the heavy darkness is a quality of the mind thinking imbalanced, unconscious, programmed, conditioned thoughts, negative thoughts. So that's how you kind of unwind that process. And as you just start unwinding that process little by little and layer by layer. And as you start releasing the darkness, then your being becomes a lot lighter, a lot more clear. And then the field, the quantum field, God, the intelligence of life, the universe, it can start flowing through you because you're becoming more of a conduit for this, because you're surrendering all of those personal egoic movements. But it's a process, it takes time. I know that my ego still comes up and sabotages the movement all the time, and it's just something where it's back to the work, back to the hands on the heart, closing your eyes, sitting in silence, allowing yourself to feel through it. Get onto the yoga mat if that's good for you. Get out into nature, go for long walks, hang out with animals, people that support your highest integrity, and know that as you're letting go, this is a big one, as you're letting go of the personal will and coming into divine will, there's going to be a period there. I'll put a video up that I made about the void or something, but there's going to be a period where you're going to be in the middle and you're going to feel like you're in the void, where you've let go of a lot, your life has disintegrated and really just come completely down to the studs, and you're really going to be bare, and you're going to be sitting there waiting for divine will to come online. And that could take a long time. It doesn't have to. It doesn't for everybody. For me, it took quite a while of just sitting and sitting and sitting and just being in nothingness and really being okay with that. And that led me ultimately to a more devoted prayer, more of this powerful, sincere, genuine prayer. And that was my path. I don't know if it has to be that for you, but that's just my experience, is prayer. Even to this day, when I'm feeling cut off, when I'm feeling confused, when I'm lost my sense of self, that's the movement. It's always prayer. And it's so powerful. And you don't have to say God if that doesn't resonate with you. I know so many of us had these religious backgrounds with really conservative communities that have kind of like cut us off from God because of, the religious aspect to it. But, the intelligence of life is what I feel in my heart when I say God. When I say God, I feel the universe. I feel the earth, Mother Gaia. I feel the quantum field, the oneness of everything. I see God in everything, meaning I see the intelligence of life in everything. So pray maybe to your higher self. Pray to anything that is something that you feel you can surrender to, that is greater than yourself, and then this will flow through you. And then the movement is detaching from the results. And this is I don't even want to speak to this because this is a huge one for me right now that I'm struggling with, is detaching from all results. That's another way the ego tries to stay alive. Like I was saying, it likes to take credit, and then it also likes to be hard on itself when things go bad. So this video, another long one. Beautiful question, Anish. Thank you so much, Anish, and everyone else, for your support in watching these videos. And it feels so good to be connected to you all in this way. And I just love you all so much, and I will see you in the next video. Namaste.